Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2084. This week we've been celebrating the Rolex Monterey Motorsports reunion that takes place August 17th through the 20th this summer at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna, Seca. To learn more and get your tickets, go to WeatherTechRaceway.com. Now buckle up and be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in St. Petersburg, Florida with a very special guest by the name of David Hinton. David, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have it in gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
I am ready. I got tires inflated, full tank of gas, ready to go.
Kind of a silly question for a guy like you because you spend so much time at tracks and racing and so forth. I'm going to give you a proper introduction in just a moment. We're going to dive into your world, but I'd love to know something about you that maybe most people don't know about David Hinton.
I'm scared of heights. How about that one?
Well, my wife is that way. It's kind of funny. And I used to not be worried too much about heights, but maybe in my older age, I tend to worry a little bit more. And I think that's because I have a friend who's a neurosurgeon, and he tells me that the third rung on the ladder is the death rung when you're older. If you fall off a ladder and you're higher than the third rung, you've got a serious problem going. And maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
I think so, because it never used to bother me, but now I go top of a ladder, I get a bit wobbly.
Well, we're supposed to stay off ladders, so pay somebody to do that. That's what I do now, so much safer. But you like to have challenges in different areas, and that's at the racetrack. So let me give you a proper introduction, David. David Hinton is the president of Historic Sports Car Racing, originally from Coventry, England. I detect a bit of an accent there. David moved to the USA when he was just 20 years old. He worked his way up as a mechanic, working for his father, and eventually owning his own shop with his wife, Denise. He bought a controlling interest in HSR in 2012 and started several new events, including the Classic 24 Hours of Daytona and Classic 12 Hours at Sebring. I love those endurance races. Historic Sports Car Racing organizes approximately 8 events a year. That keeps David pretty busy. David has been president of HSR for over 9 years and was part owner until January of this year when IMSA purchased HSR. He also owns a racing team called Heritage Motorsport, where they maintain approximately 30 different race cars for clients around the United States and Europe. Historic Sports Car Racing has sanctioned the Rolex Monterey Motorsports reunion that we've been celebrating all this week. We'll be back in just a moment, but first a word from our sponsors that make this show possible, so give them a little bit of love, and we'll be right back. Sit tight, buckle up, we're at the track with David Hinton. Covercraft's newest 3-layer all-climate cover is especially engineered for moderate weather conditions, and it's treated with an extra UV-resistant formula. It's soft, it's breathable, and it's easy to store, all while pampering your paint, providing maximum UV, rain, and dust protection. If you live where it's windy, no worries. Simply add their gust guards for windy conditions to add extra protection to keep your cover in place. Your 3-layer all-climate cover is custom-tailored with Covercraft's attention to detail, form and fit with the quality and attention to detail that's been their tradition since 1965. Covercraft protects cars, trucks, motorcycles, RVs, trailers, and watercraft too. Every one of my vehicles is protected with a Covercraft cover. And I have a deal for you. Use the code YEAH21, YEAH21 at covercraft.com, and you'll get 10% off your Covercraft order plus free shipping. That's right. So get 10% off with free shipping by simply using the code YEAH21 at checkout. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. The great Dale Carnegie said, "Knowledge isn't power until it's applied." Zengen is an oil analysis kit that allows you to sample your engine's oil and gain valuable knowledge about your engine's inner health. Get your knowledge with a personalized, detailed Zengen report today. At only $39.95 and free shipping both ways, your Zengen oil analysis costs less than an oil change and not only provides you with the knowledge of the inner workings of your engine, but then empowers you with options to avoid costly repairs or future breakdowns. Their easy-to-use sample kit takes less than 5 minutes to collect your sample and mail it back to the world-class labs. In only 5 days, they'll send you a link to your very own engine score via email. Your report measures 30 different data points, including lubricants, metals, contamination, additives, and a whole lot more. Zengen gives you knowledge, empowering you to avoid a future problem. One of those that you never knew was coming. Father's Day is coming, and Zengen gives Dad the gift of knowledge. What a gift. Give your dad his very own Zengen oil kit today, and you'll make him smile. Visit ZengenScore.com and order your oil test kit. Use the code CARSYOUT20, and they'll give you 20% off your first 2 kits. Preventative knowledge and maintenance could save you thousands, and you'll rest better at night knowing your engine's condition is A-OK or maybe needs a little help. That's ZengenScore.com and use the code CARSYOUT20 today. When it was time to renew my collector car policy, my carrier raised my rates by a lot. But why? My usage was the same, my car's value was the same, and I had never made a claim. I didn't even have a ticket. The only change was their rate, and they had no reason why. What's with that? I researched my options, I spoke to others, and with American Collectors Insurance is where I now have my policy. What a difference. A live person actually answers the phone. She spent time learning about me and my Porsche Turbo, the one I call my Orange Crush, and provided a reasonable quote. American Collectors Insurance now protects my special ride. I'm saving hundreds of dollars, and I can sleep at night knowing my baby is properly insured. Why wait until your next premium is due? Give them a call today for your personal agreed value quote. Call 866-AC1-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. Tell them you're a friend of mine, Mark Green at Cars Yeah. American Collectors Insurance, classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors, automotive enthusiasts just like you and me. That's American Collectors Insurance. Let's dive a little deeper into the corner, something you're very familiar with. I'd love for you to go back to the beginning of why you got involved with historic sports car racing. What has intrigued you into this world of motorsports and how it's kept you at so many tracks doing so many cool events? So grab the wheel.
So I've always had a passion for racing since an early age. My dad raced in England in the mid-70s. And then when we moved to the US, he started organizing events, vintage sport races for IndyCar, IMSA. This was back in the late 80s. And then HSR was formed in the early 90s. And it started to become quite the most popular series on the East Coast. And that's kind of how I got involved, just going to these events as a mechanic for my dad and then for other people I've worked with over the years. And then when I had the opportunity to purchase the majority with my partner George Toomer in 2012, kind of got me involved and haven't looked back since.
So tell our listeners that maybe aren't as familiar with historic racing as you are or I am. I've been going to the Rolex races at Laguna Seca for 31 years. Could it be that long? For a long time. I got involved when I moved up here to the Pacific Northwest. I didn't even know that historic racing was kind of a thing until I moved up here almost 30 years ago. And my gosh, this is a huge deal. So tell somebody who maybe hasn't attended a vintage race what they can expect to see, because you guys run all sorts of different kinds of cars, right?
Oh, yeah. At the Rolex, you're going to see such a varied fields. I mean, we're going from Formula Juniors, Formula Atlantic up to Formula One. So, we're covering all the bases on the open wheel cars. And then we have a saloon car group, which is new for this year, with Lotus Cortinas and Alfa Romeos and a whole mixed bag, Mini Coopers in there. So that's new for this year. And then obviously this year, the feature is the 100 years of Le Mans, and this is the actual kickoff event for the celebration for the Le Mans 24 hours. The ACO has blessed this event. They're involved in it. So this is the actual first event in that celebration. We've got some great Le Mans cars participating in the event. And then inside the paddock will be the Legends tent, where we'll have numerous overall winners, class winners on display for the spectators and enthusiasts to look at.
For the events that Historic Sports Car Racing puts on, what are some of the many venues that you guys do? I mentioned 8 events a year kind of as an average for you guys, but what are some of the tracks you guys go to?
So we go Sebring, Daytona, Road Atlanta, in Watkins Glen last year, Road America in the fall, Barber Motorsport Park.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we kind of travel mostly on the East Coast, and we just make our yearly West Coast swing out to WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca.
Absolutely. So what kind of vehicles have you raced in your lifetime?
Good grief.
I guess we need another hour to talk here, right?
I raced the NSU TTS, which is a little German rear-engine car. I've done a lot of Jaguars, which are kind of my passion. I was fortunate enough to race in the Rolex 24 and Sebring 12-hour 3 times in a Daytona prototype back in 2013. Lola T7 is Porsche 911s, BMW CSLs, all sorts of different stuff, yeah.
Holy cow. Now, do you have a favorite type of vintage race car that you love to strap yourself into?
It used to be my 1952 XK120 Coupe, which was my kind of mainstay. It was my dad's car, and after he passed away, I was fortunate to buy it from his estate. And I raced that car for probably 20 years, and now I've converted it into a rally car. I've got a good pair of friends, clients, Dean and Damon, I own a T70 Coupe Mark IIIB.
Nice.
Ray drove that car with them for the last couple of years, and it's actually in Europe. We just did Spa last weekend, and we're going to do the Le Mans Classic in July. So I think that's probably my favorite car to drive these days.
For historic endurance racing, and I never got to do any serious long events, but at Sovereign that I ran with, we would do at the end of a weekend an hour-long run, because most of those runs are 15, 20 minutes. You could get in your car and run for a full hour and pull in, you do a pit stop. And I always found that to be a lot more fun. And I think for the spectators, some of these longer endurance races that you put on are probably a lot more enjoyable too, because the drivers get into a rhythm, they get into a flow, and it's like more like watching a real race, because real races tend to last longer than historic vintage racing events do, because the cars don't run as long. Are there one of those events that I mentioned at the beginning and you talked about that's a favorite for you? Either 12 or 20, even a 24-hour race with historic cars.
Yeah, so the classic 24-hour Daytona, how that event actually works is the cars get divided into 6 groups. So the cars from the 60s are in one group, the 70s in another group, the 80s in another group, and so on, all the way to present day. At 1 o'clock on Saturday, the first group goes out, Group A, for example, they'll run for 40 minutes, and in that 42 minutes, they have to do a 3-minute mandatory pit stop, which allows enough time for a driver change or refuel. Checkered flag comes out at 42 minutes. That group comes off the track, and then Group B, which is the car from the 70s, would go out and start on the hour. They run for 42 minutes and do a 3-minute stop. So we go through each group in the 6 hours, and then at the 7th hour, Group A goes back out again, and they start from how they finished in the first race. So basically, there's 4 42-minute races in 24 hours, 2 in the daylight, and 2 at nighttime in Daytona. We switch the lights on around the banking, and it has an atmosphere like no other event. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty cool. And I would assume you do that because these different classes have varying speeds. And I'm kind of guessing you don't want to put the cars that tend to run slower just because of their engine size with super, super fast cars. Just a little too dicey.
Well, I mean, that's the way endurance racing was. I mean, you think 917s are out there racing with 2-liter 911s and BMW 2.
It's wild.
It is wild, but, we really emphasize safety. We make sure especially the faster drivers are doing the passing, they've got to be respectful of those slower cars. We're all out there, got to take care of each other. And, we've been very fortunate with very few incidents at those events. But it's so cool to see, GT40s and T7s and stuff like that out there with the old 911s at nighttime, headlights ablaze.
Yeah, got to be crazy. I did an event with Sovereign once where I was just my first year. I was in a Lotus Formula Junior, and they put all the rookies out together to run. And yeah, it's a little dicey getting passed by a GT350 Shelby Mustang when you're in a Lotus 60.
Right.
Yeah, you're just like, please don't run over me. Please don't run over me. Let's talk a little bit about your racing team, Heritage Motorsports. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I've been doing it since 2012. Built it up now. We got numerous clients, mostly Porsche 911s, BMWs, a few Jags, Chevrons, some Lolas, McLaren, stuff like that. But we do about 10 to 15 events a year, pretty much in the US. And I got clients from all walks of life. I've got famous rock stars down to psychiatrists from California. So I got the whole gambit covered as far as customers, and they're all super nice people and very fortunate.
So you guys would handle, I would assume you're a bit like my friends up here in the Northwest, Butch Dennison, Louis Shevchik, VRM, where you manage people's cars for them, take care of them, do arrive and drives, meaning the owners can show up at the track, your car's there waiting, you've got a mechanic to help you. Are those all the different services you provide?
Yes, yeah. Don't do any restorations anymore because it's just too time consuming and too difficult doing that and, running the race team and HSR. So I stopped doing restorations, but no, we're exactly like, J&L and VRM and some of those other West Coast teams. People just want to show up, race their car and get on the plane and go home on Sunday afternoon, and we take care of everything else after that.
I'll tell listeners out there, if you're thinking about getting into vintage racing, that is a very cool way to do it. That's the way I did it. And it takes, because my first few years, I managed my own car. Plus I was, had a family, running a business. And it's time consuming, and you run the risk when you're trying to manage all that of maybe missing something. Let's just say you don't tighten the lug nuts tight enough or something crazy like that. Having somebody like Heritage Motorsports or my buddies up here, there's a variety of them that have been on this show, to manage your car for you. Plus, it takes all the pressure off, because when you show up at the track, usually there's some hospitality. You can invite friends. It's more relaxing. Your car is being well maintained. I was at a track, I think it was Road America Racing, and clutch went out. And Louis Shevchik got on a bike, rode around the paddock, and found somebody, got a clutch, and got me back out on the track. I could have never done that by myself. So those are the kind of services you provide your clients, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We have plenty of resources, bring spare parts, and, we spend a lot of time preparing the car and make sure they're reliable and ready to go before we get there. And it's also important to make sure everybody under the tent kind of gets along, and all the customers, get along with each other and along with the technicians. So it's hard to get that balance, but once you have it, it makes it so much more enjoyable.
Oh, yeah. It's like a get together of the best friends, and you combine it with old cars and fun. I mentioned in your intro that you grew up around your dad. Your dad was into racing and so forth. Was he really your driving inspiration, your mentor, your influential person in your life?
Yeah, early on, I think so. Definitely, I used to watch him race, and, he was a big Jaguar dealer in England, did a lot of restorations. So in my early years, unfortunately, he passed away when I was only 21 years old.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was here on my own and kind of figuring out what to do next. And fortunately, one of his customers took me under their wing, the Veal family from Sarasota, and I worked for them for 5 or 6 years, maintaining their fleet of historic cars, and would go and do different races, including Mexico a couple of times, La Carrera Panamericana. So,
oh, wow, cool.
Yeah, George and Tom Veal were certainly big influences on my life, kind of set me on the right path, and, convinced me to stay in America and give it a shot.
Wow, that's fantastic. We're going to take a short break and thank our sponsors. When we come back, I want to talk about maybe a big challenge or obstacle you face in your life. I mean, you're involved in racing, so that's kind of an everyday deal when it comes to the racing game. So keep that thought in mind, keep the seatbelts tight, and we'll be right back. You listeners know I've been into car care my entire life. I am so excited to team up with AutoGeek in 2022. AutoGeek.net has been a leading source of auto detailing products, accessories, and expert knowledge for more than 20 years. What started in 1997 as a mail-order catalog company has grown into a multi-website-based e-commerce store that they are today. With a large online presence on its own website featuring close to 100 different brands, AutoGeek has grown to be the largest car care retailer in the country. AutoGeek's wholesale program serves accounts in over 30 countries, and its retail sector ships worldwide. Go to AutoGeek.net for the best product selection on the internet today and their stellar technical support. AutoGeek.net. It's where I go for all my detailing needs. That's AutoGeek.net. Linkage. It's a new quarterly publication and website that covers the automotive market, driving, restoring, collecting, and discovering your passion for motor vehicles. Linkage is about experiences, opinions, and values. Linkage is an actual informed, reasoned opinion based on first-hand experiences. A talented Linkage team covers the automotive world, the people who share your passion and mine, smart, considered, rational, and experienced opinions, ones you can learn from and grow. That includes our passion that drives auctions and the collector car market. So come with me and join us on this journey. And be sure to use the code CARSYEAH when you subscribe, and they'll give you $10 off. Boom! Linkage, geared for the automotive life. Subscribe today at linkagemag.com. You know what? We are all wired differently, and not everyone needs to go to a 4-year university. Technical education and the skilled trades matter, and one can build a solid career as an auto, diesel, or collision technician. They're no longer blue-collar jobs, they're new-collar careers as the technology and skill sets have become so advanced. Support career and technical education by getting involved with TechForce Foundation. It's a Cars Yeah! Charity of choice. Learn more at techforce.org. So, David, the big challenge question here on Cars Yeah! We talk about things that get in our way, but more importantly, they teach us really valuable lessons so we can move forward in a positive way. So take us on a bit of maybe a rough ride around the track.
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson we all learned was, the 08, 09 crash, recession, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, yeah.
That was such an awful time because people in our industry suffered quite badly because that was people's kind of hobby money, and that money just dried up. And, we all had to find a way of keeping the doors open. And I mean, that was a tough time. And that lasted really until 2011, 2012. And then things really started getting back on track. But no, I think we all had to tighten our belts and get through that period. And, it's something I'll never forget, to make sure you're prepared for that kind of thing in the future again.
Well, I hope we're not in for one of those coming up right now, the way things are looking. We'll keep our fingers crossed. So when you look back at that, and for perhaps young, you and I have been around for a while. So we've been through like 4 or 5 of these things in our lifetime. Yep. Recessions and, the market crashing and bear markets and all this stuff. If there's something you could share with maybe a young listener who's, looking at, the COVID thing kind of shut things down, but it was kind of a short-lived deal when it came to the economy. Maybe not for some, but for most people. But what kind of advice would you give somebody that's young, has a business, to help them prepare themselves better for one of those not so fun surprises that inevitably always comes along?
Yeah, you've got to be prepared for the worst, and you've got to have some kind of, I feel, an emergency fund. Mm-hmm. When times are good, put some money away. So if things do go downhill fast, like it did with COVID, you've got to have some kind of backup. Don't just think that this is going to last forever and, it's always going to be good times, because, over the last 30 years, you can look at the highs and the valleys, and it always happens. So be prepared for the worst is all I can say.
Well, yeah, I think it's that Boy Scout term, be prepared. Yeah, have some money tucked away and realize that the good times rolling aren't forever. I just watched a video last night on the great investor, Peter Drucker, and he talked exactly about that. He came back for a talk to discuss what's going on now, and that, I think the thing he just kept saying was, one thing's for sure, the market goes up and the market goes down, and it always will. So just always be prepared for that. Absolutely. Be prepared. Yeah, put some of that runway money aside and let it sit. When you look forward with your business, David, is there a bucket list or some things that you'd like to really do? Maybe some races you'd like to do overseas, or some vintage events you'd really like to be involved in?
I've been so fortunate with all the different events I've got to do around the world. I would like to try and do some of the historic rallies in Europe, like the Monte Carlo Historique, or there's a couple in Italy I really would like to do. Mm-hmm. And the last road race track I've got to drive is Bathurst. I've always had this hankering to go down to Australia and drive that Bathurst. I know they have a vintage sport race for that event. I've talked to a couple of people down there who said they'll help me rent a car or whatever, but that's definitely on the bucket list. That
sounds fun. So if you were going to tell a listener that has not enjoyed, like you and I have so many times, the Rolex Monterey Motorsport reunion, that this is an event you need to get to, what are some of the key elements? And we talked about it with some of the different car classes, but what are some of the many cool aspects of this event? It really is the crown jewel, I think, when it comes to reunions, that you would share with somebody to convince them that they need to get on a plane and join us out there this summer.
You're just going to see such an array of cars. I mean, there's only a couple of events in the world which has this level of cars. And we're so fortunate that this event attracts these cars year in and year out. And you're just going to see everything from 917s to 962s. If you're into Porsches, you're going to see Ferraris, You're going to see Jaguar D-types, C-types. There's just the best of the best of this event. And the nice thing about where the Tech Raceway Laguna Seca is, it's got so many great vantage points to watch the racing, but you can also walk through the paddock and walk right up to these cars, talk to the drivers, talk to the mechanics. Such a great experience.
It's got to be one of the best. So let's talk about a special vehicle in your life. You've jumped into many, many cool cars. You've been around so many great cars. Is there one car that stands out for you as being really special? I'm kind of guessing it might be that Jag that was your dad's.
Yeah, that's got some sentimental value, that's for sure. And Denise and myself have done a couple of rallies up in the Carolina Mountains with it a few times now, which is so much fun. Just for me, not so much for her, because she has to hang on and do the navigating.
Yeah.
But we really enjoy that. And I got a couple of old Honda dirt bikes I really enjoy.
Cool.
I still enjoy off-road racing a little bit. Not competitively, but, trail riding and so forth. So, I enjoy two wheels as well as four.
Yeah, I have a saying, if it rolls on rubber, I probably love it.
Yep.
That's my quote. So I'm going to be a car psychologist for you, David. Now that we've gotten to know each other a little bit better, I'm going to crawl into your skull. If you were reincarnated, pun intended, as a vehicle, not what you want to be, this is how you perceive your attributes as a person, the man in the mirror, tied into a vehicle. What would you be, but more importantly, why?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think I'd have to be British.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I'd probably say a Bentley, an old Bentley, reliable, comfortable at any speed, I think it's probably an old Bentley, something like that.
An old Bentley. So when you think about old Bentleys, is there maybe a particular era? A lot of people, when they answer this question, they go back to their year of birth or when they were a kid, or maybe, something they saw when they were a kid that just always stuck with them, that ignited that passion. For me, it was a 49 MG TC that my father bought when I was 5. And I just loved riding in that car. I felt like a big kid because that car was so tiny. And plus the steering wheel was on the wrong side. So
right.
At least for over here. Yeah. So is there a particular kind of Bentley you kind of have an affiliation with?
I like the old 1920s Le Mans Bentleys, the 4.5 liters. I think they're such beautiful cars, and what a great era that was. That's always been one of my favorite cars. There
was, of course, the year they featured Bentleys on the lawn at Pebble, and they had so many at the Quail event, and they had them all out at the track. I think it was before COVID. I think it was 2018, 2019. I don't think I'd ever seen so many old Bentleys of that era all together. And some of them I'd never even seen before that were just spectacular. I have a feeling you were there, right?
Yes, because they also did the feature of the track for them too, which was so great to see. But I know just that British Racing green, and they normally have a green interior, and the painted green wire wheels. It's just so beautiful.
Something special about those. So is there a great book you'd like to share with our listeners?
The last motor racing book I think I read was Challenge Me to Race, Mike Hawthorne's kind of semi-biography from the late 50s. Kind of talked about him and the people he raced against, and just so many funny stories. Him and Duncan Hamilton used to travel together, and the one time he talked about the racing in Argentina, and they need to get up to Sebring, and train broke down or something, and they ended up borrowing a couple of horses and going through South America on horses to get to the port to get the boat up to Florida. It's just such a great story.
That book has not been recommended, which I'm kind of surprised, but you mentioned Duncan Hamilton, and I've got his great book, Touch Wood.
Yes, I read that too. That's a good book.
It's a really good book. And of course, sadly, we lost his son, Adrian, who I got to spend a little time with him once. He picked me up at the airport in London and drove me out to his home where he had a bunch of old vintage cars.
Yep.
I don't think I've ever been more scared driving through London as a passenger sitting next to Adrian. He really liked to be spirited at the wheel. Let's just put it that way. But Challenge Me the Race. I'll have to get that book. Very, very cool. So I'm going to enable you to go on what I call the ultimate drive. I'm going to be like the ultimate benefactor for you today. Now, this might be difficult because you've been on many ultimate drives, but I'm going to provide you with any vehicle in the world. I'm going to send you anywhere in the world you want to go, and you can be with anybody that you'd like to be with. So what does the ultimate drive look like for a guy who's had so many ultimate races?
Oh, I think I would like to go with Mario Andretti.
Oh, okay.
I think the races he won in the massive variation of cars, there's nobody else like it. There really isn't. And I think, coming here as an Italian immigrant, not speaking the language and everything he went through, him and his brother, to get to where he is and how successful the whole family is, I think is a story I'd like to hear more about.
So if you and Mario
vehicle?
Yeah, what vehicle? Yeah.
I think it'd have to be kind of Italian, maybe semi-Italian, semi-British, so maybe like a DB4 Zagato, something like that.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I'd have to drive.
Okay, and would you be cruising maybe around northern Italy, around Como or the lakes up there?
Yeah, maybe down to the Amalfi Coast, something like that. But I think it'd be good to hear some of his stories. I've always been a big fan, even when he was in Formula One with Lotus and the John Player Special. I just thought he was such an amazing driver.
Yeah, and still getting out on tracks and driving. In fact, this weekend with the Indy 500, I understand he'll be there maybe giving people rides in the two-seater. So, yeah, still doing it today. And he's got to be, I'm not sure how old he's in his 80s now?
He's got to be close to it.
Yeah,
definitely.
Wow. Pretty incredible. So you've taken us on a wonderful ride around the track today, David, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to share your viewpoint from historic racing. Is there an inspiring quote, words of wisdom, or a mantra you might share with us today before we head off to the races this weekend to watch we've got the Indy 500 and the Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah, and I see the forecast is maybe rain for the Monaco Grand Prix. So might brighten that race up a little bit.
Brings back days of Senna in my mind, racing in the rain there.
So I'm looking for. I love the Indy 500. It's one of my favorite events to watch every year.
Yeah,
just the whole pageantry and everything about that event is amazing. But no, I think words of wisdom. I think hard work pays off in the end. You've just got to work hard, and if your passion is your job, then it makes things 100 times easier.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I'm so fortunate, because my job is my passion.
Yes. How can people learn more about historic sports car racing and Heritage Motorsport?
So you can go to hsrrace.com, to our website, and then we're on Instagram and Facebook with HSR also. Pretty easy to find. And Heritage, I don't have a website, but I do have a Facebook page, so I'm a little harder to find.
There you go. Well, I found you, so I'll put a link to both of those on David's show notes page here on the Cars Yeah website. Hey, if you want to have some fun, join David and I and all the guests that have been on the show this week at the Rolex Monterey Motorsports Reunion. It takes place August 17th through the 20th at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna, Seca. To learn more and get your tickets, go to weathertechraceway.com. And if you're going to be out there, you better get your room now, because this place gets to be pretty busy and pretty fun, but it's the place to be. David, hey, thanks for spending some time with us today, being so generous with your expertise and sharing your experiences on the racetrack. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you at the Rolex Monterey Motorsports Reunion.
Look forward to it, Mark. Thank you again.
We'll have fun.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.